She slapped me across the face in front of everyone, then shoved me so hard my chair flipped backwards, and the only words she spat were, "Get out of my home, Erica." For a moment, the entire dining room froze, forks midair, eyes darting between me and my sister, as if my humiliation was tonight's entertainment. Before I continue, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, because trust me, you're not ready for the twists that come next. I stood up, my face burning, not just from the sting of her hand, but from the smirks around the table. My brother whispered, "She deserved it," loud enough for me to hear. My mother avoided eye contact, hiding behind her wine glass, while my father muttered, "Always causing drama. Erica." They didn't see me as family. They saw me as the failure who never fit their perfect picture. But what none of them knew was that the very house my sister was proudly hosting dinner in, she didn't fully own. The silence was broken only by her smug voice. "You've always been poor, Erica. You don't belong at this table." My fists tightened, but instead of fighting back, I let a small smile slip. Because I knew something they didn't, something that would flip this entire night upside down, and when I finally opened my mouth to speak, the room would never be the same again. Her words still echoed in my head. "You don't belong at this table." Everyone laughed under their breath as if I were some unwanted guest, not their own blood. My sister, Amanda, stood tall at the head of the table. As Amanda laughed and told me to walk out before she called security, I caught the smirk of her husband. Ryan. He never liked me, and now I knew why. Because if the truth came out, he stood to lose more than anyone at that table. I leaned forward, my voice low but sharp. "Amanda, before you throw me out, maybe you should check who actually signed the deed of this house." Her smile faltered. My mother dropped her fork. My father leaned forward, confusion painted on his face. "What are you talking about?" Amanda snapped, her voice trembling slightly. I leaned back in my chair, calm now because I knew the bomb I was about to drop would shake the entire family to its core. But before I could say another word, Ryan quickly stood and cut me off. "She's lying. Don't listen to her. Erica has always been jealous of you, Amanda." His tone was rushed, panicked, and that was all the proof I needed. The entire table turned to me, waiting for an answer. And that's when I pulled out the one piece of paper that would make every smug smile vanish from their faces. I slowly placed the folded document on the table, the air so heavy you could hear the clock ticking on the wall. Amanda's hand shook as she reached for her glass again, trying to hide her sudden unease. My father leaned closer, squinting at the paper like it held a curse. I didn't hand it over just yet. Instead, I locked eyes with Ryan. He wouldn't stop shifting in his seat, tugging at his tie as beads of sweat gathered on his forehead. That alone told me everything I needed. He already knew what was written there. "Go ahead, Erica," Amanda sneered, though her voice cracked halfway. "Show us your bills or eviction notice. We could all use another laugh." I let the silence drag, feeding their curiosity, before finally unfolding the paper and sliding it across the table. My father grabbed it first, his eyes darting back and forth across the lines. Slowly, his face drained of color. "Amanda, why is Erica's name listed here?" The room fell into chaos. Amanda snatched the paper, her voice breaking. "No, this is fake. She forged this." But Ryan's head dropped into his hands, and in that moment, the truth screamed louder than any denial. It was my signature, clear, bold, undeniable, listed as co-owner of the very house Amanda was parading as her kingdom. Years ago, when Ryan begged for help to close the deal, I had quietly stepped in. I gave them the down payment, took on the legal paperwork, and secured the house in my name to help them qualify. They promised they'd pay me back in months. Instead, they shoved me aside, treated me like dirt, and prayed I'd never say a word. I was patient, I said, my voice shaking with both anger and relief. "I let you enjoy your little fantasy. But tonight, when you slapped me and told me to get out of my home, I decided enough was enough." Amanda's eyes widened, her lips trembling. You're lying. You don't have money. You don't even have a job. I leaned forward, finally letting a smile tug at my lips. That's what you all wanted to believe. While you laughed at me, I built my own business. While you called me poor, I was investing. And while you were busy living off credit cards, I was buying everything you thought you owned. The table was dead silent. My mother looked like she'd seen a ghost. My brother stared at me with his mouth open. And Amanda gripped the paper so tightly her knuckles turned white. But just as the truth started to sink in, Ryan suddenly stood, slamming his hands on the table. This doesn't change anything. Amanda and I live here, not you. You'll never get this house. His voice was filled with desperation, and that was when I realized Ryan had even darker secrets buried under these walls. And exposing him might destroy more than just Amanda's pride. Ryan's outburst was like gasoline on a fire. Everyone turned to him, their shock shifting from me to his panicked face. Amanda grabbed his arm, whispering harshly, "Why are you acting like this?" But Ryan yanked away, pacing the dining room like a trapped animal. "Sit down," my father ordered, his voice sharp. But Ryan didn't sit, he laughed. A cold, nervous laugh that made Amanda's face pale. "You all think Erica's the problem? You think she's lying?" He pointed at me with shaking hands. "Fine, let's tell them everything." Amanda's chair screeched against the floor as she stood, her voice trembling. "Ryan, stop!" My heart pounded. I knew there was more, but I never expected him to unravel so fast. He turned to the table, his eyes bloodshot. "Do you want to know how Amanda kept this house looking so perfect? Do you want to know why I begged Erica for help years ago?" His voice cracked, and then he spit the words out like venom. "Because we were drowning in debt." Amanda maxed out every card to keep up with her fake lifestyle. And I gambled away the rest. The room exploded. My brother muttered, "What the hell?" while my mother covered her mouth, shaking her head in disbelief. Amanda clutched Ryan's sleeve, tears welling in her eyes. "Stop it, you're ruining everything." But Ryan wasn't finished. He pointed at me again, his tone bitter. "Erica's not poor. She's smart. She built her business while we begged, borrowed, and lied. And if it weren't for her, we'd be living in a rental right now instead of pretending to be some perfect couple in this house." Amanda's mask shattered. She turned to me, her voice breaking between sobs. "You knew all this time, and you let us think you were nothing?" I didn't flinch, because that's what you wanted to believe. You wanted me to be small so you could feel bigger. You wanted me to be weak so you could laugh louder. But the truth is, I leaned forward, my eyes locked on hers. The only reason you're sitting here is because of me. For once, Amanda couldn't speak. Her hands shook as she stared at the paper still on the table, the proof she couldn't erase. Then my father stood, his face red with both anger and shame. "Enough of this nonsense. Erica, if you really had money, if you really were successful, why didn't you ever tell us? Why keep it a secret?" I held his stare. "Because you never cared to ask. You only wanted a reason to mock me. And tonight, you gave me the perfect stage to show the truth." Amanda collapsed back into her chair, tears streaking her makeup. Ryan sat down too, defeated, mumbling under his breath about ruined plans. The rest of the table stayed frozen, the weight of the revelation sinking in like a storm. But I wasn't done yet. Because the paper I showed them wasn't the only document I brought with me that night. What I was about to reveal next would crush Amanda's entire world in a way she never saw coming. Amanda's tears hadn't even dried when I reached into my bag again. Her eyes darted to me, terrified, like she already knew I wasn't finished. Ryan muttered, "Don't, Erica. Just stop." But I didn't stop. I pulled out a second envelope and placed it slowly on the table, right beside Amanda's untouched plate. "This," I said calmly, "is the real reason you should have never tried to humiliate me tonight." Amanda's trembling hands snatched the envelope and ripped it open. The moment her eyes scanned the first line, her face went white. She dropped the papers like they burned her skin. My father picked them up, read silently, then froze in his chair. His lips parted in disbelief. This is impossible." Everyone leaned in, desperate to know what was inside. I finally spoke, my voice steady but filled with power. Not only am I co-owner of this house, I'm the sole owner now. As of last week, Amanda and Ryan legally signed their shares over to me when they failed to pay back what they owed. They were so desperate they didn't even read what they were signing. The room gasped. My brother's jaw dropped. My mother whispered, "My God." Amanda stood up so quickly her chair toppled backward. No, that's not true. Ryan, you didn't tell me you didn't. But Ryan didn't move. He just buried his face in his hands, mumbling, "We had no choice." Erica owns everything now. For the first time in years, the power shifted. The same people who mocked me, slapped me, and called me worthless were now staring at me like I held their fate in my hands. And I did. I looked at Amanda, who was trembling with rage and fear. "You told me to get out of your home. But the truth is, Amanda, you've been living in my home all along. And as of today, you don't even have a claim to it." Her legs gave out, and she sank back into her chair, sobbing. My mother tried to speak, but no words came. My father just shook his head, finally realizing the daughter they had mocked the most was the one holding the family together all along. I stood, my voice calm but unshakable. "For years you laughed at me. Tonight you tried to humiliate me. But I built something real. And unlike all of you, I don't need to scream or pretend. I just show the truth." I walked toward the door, my heels clicking against the floor. At the doorway, I turned back one last time. "Enjoy the dinner. But remember, this isn't your home anymore. It's mine, and I decide who stays." The silence that followed was louder than any insult they'd ever thrown at me. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the outcast. I was the one with the final word. And as I closed the door behind me, I knew one thing for certain. The girl they once mocked as poor had just become the most powerful person in the family.